seems like normal fog, typical wafts of wind blowing through. Like the breeze will come by and it will move some of it. It's not all that immediately strange in any way, but yeah, I'm gonna read this. For a time, the fog appears completely featureless. You furrow your brow in frustration, wondering why everyone else seems so interested in the ceaseless expanse. Kind of did this out of order. Just as you are about to turn away, you hear the unmistakable cry of a woman in distress. Instinctively, you focus on where you believe the sound came from. Your eyes are drawn to the ground as you spot something there, something small and indistinct. Curious, you advance forward, only to again be caught off guard one step later. Certain you are on soil only moments ago, you now feel and hear wooden floorboards beneath your feet. You peer down to confirm this inexplicable change in scenery, but end up seeing nothing out of the ordinary. So, just dirt. Despite it, you move your feet around, and you're like, huh, it feels like wood, and it creaks like wood, but it's dirt. So it's already kind of off. You decide to resume your previous course of action, scanning the horizon for the object you had seen a few seconds prior. Yet it's gone. Another cry is heard from your left, followed immediately by the sound of someone falling to the floor. You dart in that direction, having grown impatient, frustrated, and more than a bit confused. Yet, only a few paces later, your feet slip on something slick, and you tumble to the ground. You impact the floor with a dull thud, the pain coursing throughout your affected limbs in waves. Eventually, you lift yourself into a seated position, your arms propping you from either side. Wait, what is that? There's something on your hands. You bring up one to your face to get a better look, and recoil in disgust. Blood. There's so much blood. It's all over you. Your arms, your face. It's seeping into your clothes. The smell is overwhelming, overpowering. You quickly begin crawling away, wanting to distance yourself from it all. Yet it never seems to end. There's always more blood. You see some shapes on the horizon, motionless. And after what seems like an eternity, you reach them. Your hand brushes up against something within the river of blood in which you still find yourself. You lift it out, watching with bated breath as more of its features come into view. It's a pistol? Some of the fog recedes, revealing more about the two figures beside you. Who are they? They seem so familiar. You stare at the pistol, transfixed, your knuckles white as you hold it close. You don't understand why, but you know there's something to all of this, something important. You see someone now, someone a couple dozen feet from you. You can barely make out their silhouette. It's a man, a tall man, standing in a doorway. He has one hand on the handle and the other out, beckoning you toward him. The outline around his body wavers as he speaks, saying only this: "You know where to find me." He opens the door, from which comes a blinding white light. As it consumes you, you feel yourself falling backward indefinitely. So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll then turn to somebody else.
Yeah.
Let's go with the next person that was definitely more than one of the more enthusiastic people. You have to forgive me. I was working on these throughout the week, but
It's good. It's good. It's good.
yeah,
Cool.
I wasn't able to get every single person a very long, drawn-out one, and also I had difficulty coming up with ideas for everybody because of their backgrounds and such. But I will do my best in improv here as best I can. It won't be as well written comparatively. Let's go with Michael. You hear the sounds I mentioned prior growing louder as you approach. What was once a church bell changes into, let's say, the chimes and other ambient noises that are typically heard within the temple that you have called home for so long. as you step closer, you in that direction, you step on something that crunches beneath your feet. When you look down to see what it is, you notice that it is a skeleton. It is, or a fairly decayed body, more like. And you stepped on its hand. It was reaching out, mostly unearthed, but still quite like in a state of disconnectedness. It's not all one piece. It's like a torso, an arm, and a head. And as soon as you see this, despite your familiarity with so many things unliving, you immediately feel caught off guard, like similar to what it was like when you first, either when you first began going to the temple or before you really became more familiar with death in a more profound fashion. Like you became more desensitized to it. So like those old feelings sort of wash over you. And then you look up to see marching in the distance, or rather the approaching rows of many marching entities marching in your direction, coming straight toward you. So you're only seeing the silhouettes, and you can barely hear in the distance footsteps coming closer to you. But eventually the fog kind of clears, and they gain distance on you, and you see that it's a large, huge, continuous army of undead of all different kinds, primarily just skeletons and zombies, basic creatures that you would typically find in such a large, like, necromantic force, if you want to call it that.
Mm-hmm.
And you look down, in your hand you feel something pierce your skin, and when you peer down into that hand, it's dug into it partly is the holy symbol of Hades, which I can't quite immediately remember what it was, but all of a sudden,
three-headed dog.
like a three-headed dog, yeah, and let's just say like the base of it, like the neck, is kind of like dug into your palm, drawing blood, and then when you kind of run your fingers over it, it cracks down the middle and breaks into two distinct pieces, kind of falling apart before you, and it all falls to the ground. And then when you look up once again to gaze upon the army that was before you, you see on a horse with a mane of fire and like a large dark black horse with like a mane of fire and a tail made of fire and all this. You see a tall, thin man in a long cloak, with mostly indistinct features, turn toward you and kind of pull out a sword like an officer would and point it toward you, and he says, you know where to find me. I'm going to go with the same thing that was said to the 2-1. And he keeps marching on, and you turn your gaze back toward the rest of the army behind him, as it seems to have grown ever larger, like maybe 10 times its size, and it's just the entire horizon for on and on and on. It's like the fog has essentially receded away to at least give the perspective of miles of visibility, showing just devastation of the countryside, and burning villages and dead humanoids of all kinds of different races strewn across, and destroyed wildlife, destroyed trees and dead wildlife and that kind of thing. And the familiar connection to Hades that you had up to this point seems to wane, and with that, you clutch at your chest in a sort of pain that is deeper for you than it ever has been. And as you do that, you kind of fall forward, you collapse, and you begin to fall unconscious. Okay, there we go to the next person, which, let's say it's Darius. This one is another one I'll have to improv, but it shouldn't be as long. I noticed I took a bit.
Go for it, man. Get it.
So with you are, as soon as you walk in this direction of the fog, you start hearing again the sounds that you heard that brought you to it grow very loud and familiar and more clear and distinct, as in it's becoming more real and there and true. And when you get closer and you begin to see your bunch of familiar associates and friends and family members are walking around and talking to one another, communicating as it was back when you were a child, and in the village so long ago. And when you look toward an old friend of yours, you step toward them and they wave you over. And then as you move toward them, you are shoved to the side suddenly from one person from your right, and you don't know where that came from. It was like somebody pushed you. You fall onto your back, like more on like your side, your left shoulder, and you look up immediately, instinctively, of course, and you see a group of bullies that were once teasing you back then.
Yeah, that happened a lot.
Yeah.
You fucking nerd reading.
Yeah, that's very literally what's going on. They're teasing you for your
being able to read.
You're less physically capable. You're more intellectually inclined than many other orcs. You're more well spoken and such. You just in general don't quite get along and or operate in the same fashion as all the rest of the orcs in your tribe do, half orcs technically. And you, when this happened, you see like past one of their legs a book that you were reading, you had been reading, or that you're familiar with, and it's of some importance to you, and you reach out to it with your hand, and as you do so, you feel a foot to drop onto your hand and right between like all your bones and like crush your hand, and it's extremely painful. It's something you've had to deal with your whole life as like a source of some not crippling chronic pain or anything. It's like, everybody has their own shit, their own problems and their own pains and physical maladies. You just have this, your dominant hand is sometimes just aches, especially like in the cold and like, and this step pushes down and you hear the cruel laughing of children around you, but then when you look up, you see a tall, slender man dressed in a cloak with familiar features, and he smiles down at you in a condescending fashion before raising up his foot again and saying, "You know where to find me," and then brings his foot directly at your head, and you immediately fall unconscious as it like covers your eye and your gaze, and all falls black. Then we'll go to Cole, because the last one I want to do is Lucian, because it's just different. Cole, you are when you head toward the fog. It's much the same in terms of what you heard was you had heard Bior call out to you, and you hear it a few times, like say, "Hey, come on," in Minotaur, or "Keep up," that sort of thing. And you advance forward some, and you soon find yourself in a, or rather, you see on the horizon the distinct shapes of houses of a village, and you smell smoke, and as you step closer still, you then hear the cries of battle, and you hear women screaming and men yelling and clashing of metal and running in just general chaos. You, as you step further down this pathway toward in the center of the village, on your right, you see a man on his knees, with another man dressed in furs and of various kinds and such, and skins, holding up a kind of crude blade to his neck, as the man cries and stares at the doorway at which of a nearby house, at which another man kind of leans against the wall right next to the doorway, which is kind of cracked open, in which you hear a woman screaming and thrashing around. Then you hear another like loud cry to the opposite side of you, like behind you, essentially, from your attention in that direction. So you wheel around, and now you're at the center of the town proper, the courtyard, the main square. And there you see a man on lying on his back on a like a large stone slab of some kind. Actually, it's more like a platform where maybe they gave speeches or something, where like the town crier would come. And from his outfit, you could surmise that this is perhaps the mayor of the town. Holding his arms is the unmistakable silhouette of a minotaur towering over him, very massive and large and muscular and imposing as he was. He's holding his arms while at the same time his legs are tied to ropes to a horse that is being driven in the opposite direction, stretching the man crudely out in a form of torture. And you hear like the bone crunching, twisting, sinew ripping of this man being just torn in half, with the unmistakable visage of Bior at one end of it. Then he picks up the disemboweled man without any care in the world and tosses him aside, and then he steps toward a row of multiple people of different ages, men of different ages, no women. Actually, some women, but they're only women of a very specific age group. Like, they're all much younger women, like older teenage girls kind of thing. Maybe young girls in their 20s as well.
What's
But
age?
men of all kinds. And then they're all on their knees, and seem like they're being evaluated. Bjork kind of looks across to each one of them and then points at them every so often, seemingly satisfied with one selection or another for some reason, as they then are pulled away and taken into a cart that has been set up nearby, and they're thrown inside, bound. The rest of the anybody that he passes over is killed outright, without hesitation. And then when you fall upon the last person, and you're looking at yourself, as you have many times while you've been here in this damn country, and you see yourself kneeling, and someone is holding your head, or holding you have to have a hand on your shoulder and a blade up to your neck, and Bjor stops in front of him and kind of crosses his arms, considering for a time, before just turning his back and moving on into the fog, not saying anything or doing anything. And then the man that's holding, your eyes are brought up to him, to his face, that's holding you there, and it's once again, a familiar man, and a tall man in a cloak and familiar features, that says, "You know where to find me." And he cuts your throat, or at least this depiction of yourself before you, and you immediately feel your own hand brought up to your throat and collapse forward, feeling the life drain out from you as slowly you fall unconscious. And then we come to the last person, which is Lucian, and I have this one written, so it hopefully won't take too long. Lucian, to you, the fog before you appears not as a sea of gray and white, but rather an inky black void that distorts and undulates seemingly at random. Yet as you focus your gaze, the trembling falls into a steady rhythm, and recognizable shapes slowly begin to manifest. You see a path before you, the jagged white lines comprising such not unlike chalk on a blackboard. To emphasize, so where everybody else was seeing this fog so slowly manifest into the real world, you are pretty much just seeing chalky white lines on a pitch black void, making up the general outline of reality.
Okay.
Not any color.
Right.
At a turn ahead, you are brought to a nearing alleyway, itself flanked on either side by countless piles of refuse. Past a broken crate, wrapped tightly in a blanket and shivering, you see a man. Most of his face is bandaged, only his chattering teeth and chapped lips within view. He is alone here, the sole resident of this forgotten dead end. The only company he enjoys are the rats that occasionally come to tear the flesh from his frozen feet, themselves as desperate for a meal. As you peer down at this pathetic creature, you hear footsteps echoing off the towering walls around you. You turn to investigate the source and are surprised to see nothing at the entrance, truly nothing at all. There was once a path, is now nothing but darkness, and as the steps grow louder, more of the alley fades away into the background. The abyss is upon you now, the man beside you barely visible through your periphery. Two intense red eyes stare down at you from above, locking your gaze. Reverberating within the confines of your mind, you hear a familiar and menacing voice speak. You know where to find me. With that, you feel as though your entire self is being consumed by the void, by the darkness. As your consciousness fades, all that you can see are those two red eyes growing ever larger, and now accompanied by a most wicked smile.
Okay.
All right, that took a while,
Okay.
but I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Oh,
You
that
That was
all,
cool.
Yeah, very much.
you all eventually, you are all wake up around the same time. Having all lying on the ground in various places in front of the fog. I'll just, helter skelter in front of the fog. You haven't really moved very much at all. And yeah, you all wake up. The final memory, the final image of whatever you saw burned into your memory as a extremely, like a very vivid dream, more like a nightmare, really.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one
I
like
don't-
gets off the ground and like inspects her hands, and she like looking for the blood that was once there. And obviously, is she still actually bloody from like all the medical stuff she did last time to you guys? Or
Sure, but I mean, it's dry by this point. It's
Yeah.
like as far as how much blood you had on you,
Yeah.
in the vision, it's not that much at all.
Yeah,
and the
it's-
smell is not is much more faded away.
it's still like a silent reminder. So she's like she's actually like silently sort of crying at this point of being remembered of a sad memory. So yeah.
Yep.
Well,
I tried
cool.
to come up with something that would be, at least in some way, speak to each character's fears and or aspirations and or like values. The one I definitely struggled with the most would be Darius, given that
Yeah.
the most I
I
had
imagine.
had to with it.
Oh, I
But-
can imagine Darius' story is one of like being an outsider to his people, and yeah,
Yep.
that kind of makes
Yeah.
sense.
Pretty much like.
Most magic users among half-orc tribes would be sorcerers and druids and innate magic
Yeah.
users. That kind of like it comes to them naturally. Someone that's
Like I picture it more as like most of his life he tried to be like a shitty general brute orc, and then he found some magic and it was this is pretty good. I should learn this.
Yeah, and that you kind of found your niche finally. You found a calling of some kind. In some way, you felt like you belonged.
A talent you couldn't ignore.
The only thing I want to check in with is there are two things. Michael, I don't think I gave away too much there, but you'll have to let me know in terms of any future plot stuff.
Mm.
I was trying to be vague, and also that applies to 1 as well, because you and I talked about that already,
Oh yeah.
and I think you understand what that was about.
Oh yeah.
And then with Cole, I do try to keep the game reasonable in terms of violence and gore and that kind of thing. And you guys will just have to tell me if I ever go across the line in anything I imply or outright depict. Not in terms of anybody being too sensitive. I'm just saying in terms of taste.
Messing up your
or-
background, your story.
or that too. Yeah, if it's any way that's like I'm telling anybody what they're thinking or feeling or anything. But yeah, if anybody was like that was over the line or that didn't feel in character, you can let me know.
Mm.
And yeah, you can take the visions as however you wish. I don't feel the need to spell out too much more specificity unless you want to ask a question.
Okay.
I thought Lucian played two-way.
It's
Yeah.
okay, and just so I can picture this, like there's nothing in particular around, like it's just a foggy wilderness, right?
Yeah, when
Right now?
everybody wakes up, you are back to right where you were before you stepped near the fog, as if nothing happened at all. You just wake up. For you, Darius, you feel the pain in your hand come back, and you kind of
Ooh.
clench your fist sometime back and bent back and forth, like opening your hand and closing your hand, kind of like just trying to gauge the pain. And over time, it sort of starts to wane, but it's always kind of been there. It's been an irritant, but you're an old enough man at this point that it doesn't really bother you. It was just remembering that specific memory was unpleasant. And Lucian, you and I can definitely talk, because I could see this easily working into what you already wanted to do.
Yeah.
Pretty easy to go somewhere with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then with that, what I want to now do is, because this is kind of what I would expect you guys would do, you would be heading back to the Martikovs.
Oh, well, before that happens, if I want to, like, react to the whole vision thing.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I already said, like, the crying Infinimajig, expecting there was going to be some role-playing between all the characters' responses, but if no one else is going to do anything...
No, I mean... Yeah, however anybody else wants to respond to each other.
Lucian wouldn't say anything.
Oh, hello, I just broke off. Hello?
Darius runs off to cry. It's like, I can't see me like this.
Can you hear me, guys?
I can hear you,
yes.
Darius.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, excellent. I just dropped for like a minute. Don't know.
Oh.
Random crash.
Oh, you ran.
Okay.
I thought you meant run off in character. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, I missed.
technically, yeah.
No, that's cool. And Shane, you did mention that that guy seemed familiar to us?
Yes, to all of you. The man.
Is
the
this like
tall
what, just one of those vague feelings where you can't put your finger on it, or some specific?
All of you except for Michael have met this person before. I'll just say that.
It's.
Is it
Do you
Strahd?
really not know
You don't
Darius,
feel
or are
like
you
it's
just playing
Strahd?
along your character?
Yeah, I was just trying to not spell it out, but yes,
No,
it's Strahd.
Yeah, that's what I was
It is
No, you
Strahd.
could. No, I just remember his description differently. Don't remember him as tall and gaunt.
Look,
especially.
whatever
Yes,
one
honestly,
writes
I
in
didn't
the,
make-
whatever
No,
one writes in the
he's not,
history.
he's not like sickly, but he's tall and thin.
See, I was picturing like the gaunt
Vampire.
Reaper man kind of.
Yeah, I was picturing like the Grim Reaper a little, or maybe Hades for some reason.
I mean,
but
there's
yeah.
the
Yeah,
picture at the
that's
opening
a
of the
reasonable
game,
assumption.
right?
Yeah, it was. You recognized the voice as Strahd. I just didn't want to say Strahd says.
But I figured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael would not know Strahd's voice. He has not yet seen him.
Nope.
You know, general idea of like what he is, who he is, what he may look like, that kind of thing. But it's all rumor and conjecture. So familiar is maybe not the right word for you, but it would be everything. Every other descriptor would be correct. Yes. So yeah, one is collecting herself, having reacted quite emotionally to this, reliving this tragic experience, at least in some fashion. Before you guys move on, is there anything more you'd like to say to one another or convey?
I mean, I have something else,
Let's
but I
not
wanna...
go near fog anymore, guys.
Okay.
Agreed.
Reasonable course
so-
of action.
Okay.
Lucian's
One-
just kind of sitting,
Oh yeah,
Like-
go on.
looking very contemplative. He's not saying anything. He's just kind of sitting.
Yeah,
Like things are not all right.
yeah. For
Listen, you know,
Lucian,
this was just Strahd messing with our minds, right? This is like a tactician using, well, quite sophisticated magic.
Oh, so he must be some sort of sophisticated wizard. I always pictured him
Well-
as just a vampire.
he said, I mean, you've seen before that he was able to kind of manifest before you all in a illusion next to your camp.
Yeah,
he's
it's
very
like he
potent
uses
mind
lots of
manipulation.
theatrics and
Yes,
to be scary and stuff, but
yes, very
you
much so.
can slightly peer behind the curtain. He's wizardly mighty magic.
Yes, he's doing this through some kind of magical means, whatever the specifics might be.
You're right. Not specifically a wizard. He could be like a sorcerer or whatnot. Who knows?
Yes, or it's just innate. vampire nonsense.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I was kind of
I
assuming.
mean, it's fucking D&D. It's the fantasy kitchen sink of to sink all kitchen sinks.
Yes. I'm curious though, Michael, like, how are you responding to this? You saw this army of undead and Hades seemingly abandoning you, or at least your connection to him having been broken. At least, obviously, in the vision, when you come to, you feel it fade into normality again, and you're like, oh, okay, that was a not like a dream, like a vision. It was awful, but that's what it was. But how would he take that information? Is he much of an emotional person?
Not really. He's very stubborn, but dry, I guess.
Stoic?
Yeah. I guess what he would do was I would just cast Blight on a tree.
Okay.
Because fuck that tree.
Just to make sure that I still have my connection, and it was just bad.
I like that. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. That it works without issue. Everything is fine.
If I target a non-magical plant that isn't a creature, such as a tree or shrub, it doesn't make
Yeah,
a saving
it
throw.
immediately-
It simply withers and dies.
just-
I'm just gonna point at a big-ass tree.
Yeah, you just nuke that tree. It just withers away immediately, turning its leaves turning black and crumbling away, just into this black husk of a tree. So yes, your abilities are intact as you remember them. But yeah, that makes sense that you're pretty stoic, and also I would imagine, be briefed to an extent. You're aware of the capabilities of undead entities and other evil forces, and you would definitely have been briefed on Shroud's abilities as far as what they're known to be, and that he is a capable magic user of some kind. So you're like, oh, okay, well, this makes sense. That's annoying. I'd rather he not do that, but okay.
I did not enjoy that.
No.
But yeah, I would just light up my pipe and look over to one and just point at her and be like, "Is she gonna be okay?"
Okay. I guess that sort of cue. She pretty much gets up and reaches into her pack and pulls out the pistol, basically, and she's like, looks at it, and she's like, and then she like suddenly throws it into the foggiest part of the landscape or whatever it is, the foggiest part of the fog, whatever. She throws it with like hatred and like,
Sure, I like it a lot. That makes sense. You
That's
see a
perfectly
pistol.
good pistol.
Yeah,
Normally
he was. But yeah, I could see one not having a terrible good appreciation for pistols anymore, at least with this jarring traumatic memory again.
No, I mean, makes total sense, but...
See,
Yeah,
normally
you're right.
Lucian would go grab it because,
oh, that's
Pistol.
why she intentionally threw it in
Yeah.
the foggiest part, so it couldn't be retrieved.
but I don't know if he would.
I don't think Lucian, or I don't think
Yeah.
anybody would go after it. It
Yeah,
wouldn't bother
no,
when you're that foggy.
I don't think he's gonna go.
Yeah, like, hey, you're wasting whatever. Fuck, I don't care. I want to go to Cole next because I've not heard anything from you, dude. I want to know, how would Cole react to seeing this village being razed by the band of berserkers led by Bjor, literally raping, pillaging, torturing, killing, and enslaving. Which, Mark, you have to tell me if anything that's too over the line. It's not. He's not telling anyone to do any like raping or whatever. It's not even-
yeah, it's part of the gig, just
Yeah,
barbarian
village.
stuff.
It's
Yeah.
barbarians being barbarians.
I was just wanting to make sure that it's like not essentially telling you what your character's value
Yeah,
is.
I mean it's like the Vikings. That's what they did. It was
Yeah.
part of the job.
Not great. Yeah. And yeah, so Bjor's band of berserkers are not great. You don't know if this is a real event, Cole, like this has actually transpired, or it's a premonition, or if it's just purely a fabrication. but all the same, it felt quite real, and the pain of seeing your devolve into such primal, bestial, disgusting behavior, as well as like neglecting you or turning his back on you when you are in mortal danger, leaving you to your fate. I imagine this would strike Cole on some emotional level.
Well, first of all, before the vision even started, like, because of this area, now that the cursed tree or whatever has been destroyed, and I feel more clear-minded. That's how I would kind of like enter the vision, and because being more clear-minded, being more focused, I would realize faster that this is indeed a fabrication.
Right.
And after seeing Strahd in this, I would be like, okay, he's just trying to push my buttons again.
Yeah,
Being a dick
so-
again.
He's
and
just
so-
fucking around with Cole again.
And so, like, everything that I saw with Bior, I would immediately deny as
Yeah.
just being made up, like a fabrication. But like when it comes to the town, when it comes to the people, I would kind of sense that would be true. That would happen if we do not erase this like vile creature that has just taken over this land.
Yeah.
To what?
I
to-
feel-
Whether it's Strahd or
I-
even
I-
yeah.
You know
Go
what?
ahead.
Yeah, to what
I feel-
Coldus... Oh, go on.
Actually, I think I'm done.
Okay. To what Coldus
Yeah.
says, I'm like, of course it wasn't real. I'm sure it's just Strahd trying to mess with us again. This is clearly
I
a
don't
sign
think
that
Cole
we
in
need to...
character. I don't think Cole in character verbally mentioned any of that.
All the same, I think it'd be clear to everyone that it was
Yeah.
an illusion.
I
would-
restart and say
I-
we probably all just clearly saw something quite nasty, and it's clearly a sign that Strahd is still messing with us. And if
As you
it's
hear this
Yeah.
tree breaking and falling over, just yep.
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 I would say like out loud, like I did have this vision of this town being like a ransacked and burned and pillaged and all this stuff, and I do have a feeling that this will happen if we do not confront Strahd. We need to take care of this sooner than later. We need to gather our allies and confront this
Yeah.
confront this creature, and then as Michael finishes his spell on just destroying this tree, I just like look over towards him, like raise my hands up in the air, kind of like a what the fuck emotion, as I kind of like shake my head back and forth, like, no, what the fuck.
Yeah. I mean, that would be that would kind of be like, wait, why'd you do that?
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not wish to answer.
So, well,
Lucy just looks
I
up
too
and
have
is
had
like,
a quite awful visions before, particularly about a nightmarish dream about, I don't know, killing you guys and everyone but myself being dead, and this has got to stop, guys. We have to go and take on Strahd. This has to stop.
I mean, here's the thing, guys. I almost think he wants us to.
Maybe he does. All the same, I'm trying to build up dramatic tension to kind of get you guys going. Like it's the final
Yeah.
after within the Final Fantasy book where he comes and kills Eris.
I'm
Eris.
gonna suggest to like party. I'm gonna be like, we should finish up all the loose ends we have, and then head over to the castle after we gather some allies.
Yes,
Okay, for sure, but
that makes sense.
We should.
how
find
many
the
loose
house.
ends are left?
Well, we
You're
gotta
on the home
find this
stretch.
house.
Well, I say,
and
like,
then
as soon as you
we
finished,
should probably.
as soon as you finished off with
Go ahead,
your
Ethan.
shit, by all means, let's go kill Strahd, because
I
The
still
sooner the
kinda wanted
better,
to check
really.
out yeah, I wanted to check out the weird toy shop. We should probably go by Baba Lysaga's house to like find, whatever she had hidden away in there.
Sure,
I
that
think
makes sense too.
we could probably get the
Um,
Rabbit's help still, because he said he'd help us if we like gave him a wedding dress or something, right?
Yep, you did say that.
So we could probably get his help.
Hmm.
I think we'll need.
Yep. Yeah, I have a list now. I wrote it all out because I wanted to make sure I kept track of everything, of all the current line of sort of side quests and stuff you guys have going on, as well as the fortunes that have been completed and still need to be done, or rather, you have not yet fulfilled them. Like, they haven't completed yet. But you guys, in a mechanical sense, are definitely in the home stretch of the campaign. I was thinking that we would be wrapping it up with your personal
Yeah,
storylines, your respective quests, but then we, all execute and go into Castle Ravenloft and get this shit done, take them down. I just wanted to have like a time to kind of fuck with you guys all again, because this is the stuff I enjoy the most doing, is the writing, and messing with players.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, what I would like to do now is, let's say that we're all going back to the Mardikovs, and then we could take a brief break, just a bathroom break.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
I think I need like 10-15 minutes. Feel free to start without me.
Okay. We'll be going with by, let's just say 8 minutes. So we'll be going at 40, whatever that is in your time zone. It's 2:40 my time, whatever it is for you guys, in 8 minutes.
Okay, we're taking the break now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
Yeah, and we'll come back and we'll be